The sounds of the season can often sound like this.
So, when are we getting some grandkids?
But with Hilton's Season to Stay sale, they could sound a bit more like this. Or this. Stay and save up to 20% off when you book before January 5th at Hilton.com. Hilton, for the stay. Minimum 2-night stay required. Excludes luxury and all-inclusive properties. Terms and conditions apply.
And I really just thought she was lazy. So I remember telling my pediatrician, what he told me was, there is no child that is lazy. There isn't a child that decides they don't want to move. There's something that is causing them to want to be still. And at her 9 months, I just started working with her and doing what I call purposeful play. And within 6 weeks, she now was crawling and pulling the stand and taking steps. And I was like, holy moly, I'm going to build a business off of this.
Welcome to the No Guilt Mom podcast. I am your host, Joanne Crone, joined here by the lovely Bree Tucker.
Why, hello, everybody. How are you?
We were just rejoicing because, every No Guilt Mom episode has to start with talk about the weather here in Phoenix and how it's now sweater weather here in Phoenix, which is incredible, Bree. It came for your birthday.
I know, right? Like it rained on my birthday, which most people would think is a bad thing, but I was like, heck no. It brought us down by like 30 degrees and it has been beautiful. I'm wearing I know that people in podcast land can't see it, but I have my pumpkin spice top on to go with the fall.
It's all the fall. It's all the fall. Well, today on the podcast, we are talking to Dr. Emily Heisey and Dr. Matt Otteman. They're the co-owners of KinActive Kids, and they're pediatric development experts. They're a globally renowned pediatric intensive clinic that combines physical therapy and chiropractic care to help children reach developmental milestones. And I know me in particular, I'm going to be asking them tons of advice about my niece, who is 5 months old, and what developmental milestones to look for. So we hope you enjoy our interview with Emily and Matt.
You want mom life to be easier. That's our goal too. Our mission is to raise more self-sufficient and independent kids, and we're going to have fun doing it. We're going to help you delegate and step back. Each episode will tackle strategies for positive discipline, making our kids more responsible and making our lives better in the process. Welcome to the No Guilt Mom podcast.
Welcome, Emily and Matt, to the podcast. We are so excited to have you here. And I'm excited to dig into all this developmental milestone stuff because honestly, my youngest is 11. I had concerns about him when he was baby stage, 2 years old. And I know that you just have a wealth of information. So Emily, I really want to start with you because you have a personal story about why you got into this. Can you share that with us?
Yes. By trade, I am a pediatric physical therapist, and I've been treating, 15, 16 years. And I kind of stepped away from treating when I had my oldest daughter, Hannah. And then after a year, right at a year, I found out I was pregnant with Heidi. And so then I stayed home a little bit longer. But with Heidi, when she hit around the 9 to 10 month mark, I always knew something was kind of up with her. She had really terrible acid reflux, and that was causing some delays in her development. It caused her to not want to be on her tummy during tummy time. She would throw back. It took forever for her to finish a bottle. And so it wasn't until about 8 months that she even started sitting independently. And as a pediatric PT, I was like, something is going on. And I really just thought she was lazy. So I remember telling my pediatrician, I think she's just lazy. And what he told me was something that really has stuck with me after starting the business, which is there is no child that is lazy. There isn't a child that just decides they don't want to move. There's something innate that is causing them to want to be still and be static. So with that, I kind of started trying to put the pieces together, and it really was the acid reflux that caused a lot of tightness in Heidi's body. And so for 20 minutes a day, right at her 9-month birthday, I just started working with her and doing what I call purposeful play. And it's just simple activities that you can integrate into your everyday schedule that can enhance motor development, cognitive development, things like that. But 20 minutes is all I could do, because after that, I was going to cry myself because she was losing her crap. And so with that, I added in chiropractic, and within 6 weeks, literally 6 weeks, she was moving out of that sitting position that she had achieved at 8 months, and now was crawling and pulling the stand and taking steps. And I was like, holy moly, I'm going to build a business off of this. And I, with that, want to have a platform to where I can educate other parents that it's okay if some kiddos need a jumpstart. And that's when I started Instagram. And that's kind of organically grown over the past couple of years to almost 500,000 followers. Yeah. So I just love educating and helping other mamas not be so stressed with development.
That's an amazing story, an amazing transformation that you were able to help your daughter with that. And I'm sure you've seen such results with other kids too that you've worked with in your practice. And I'm interested to dig into that a little bit more. But first, let's meet Matt. And Matt, I feel like we really need to touch on your previous career experience as a baseball player. So you played for the Mariners. Tell us about that and then how you got into your current field.
That seems like a jump. I don't know many professional baseball players that I can say I personally know that are chiropractors.
Yeah.
Well, and especially not in peds. Yeah. So my name is Dr. Matt Otteman. I'm the chiropractic arm of KinActive Kids. Yeah, I did not want to be a pediatric chiropractor. I played baseball. Actually, I was in Peoria over at the Mariner facility down the street from y'all. Mm-hmm. Yep. Loved it there. And my whole life, I just wanted to help people move better. I loved working out and just wanted to help athletes become professional athletes or get a college scholarship. So I kind of went down that track of, let me get in the gym, let me write these exercise programs, do personal training. I helped start a gym in New York. And then I was like, well, I don't really want to lift weights for other people anymore. So I need to figure out what else I can do so that I can still have autonomy and I can make these programs. And so it was either PT or chiropractic. And I really loved some of the aspects of chiropractic. So went to chiropractic school, and the whole time in school, I was like, well, I'm just going to work on athletes. I did not take, there's extra pediatric courses that you can do, but you get a semester of a course, and that's basically what you're given in school. Fast forward to, I reach out to Dr. Emily on Instagram because I have a 5-month-old at the time back in 2020. And I loved her idea of purposeful play. So as a new parent, I was like, well, I'm going to play with my kid. Why wouldn't I want to do it in a purposeful way? And she probably thought I was crazy for reaching out to her. Like, you want what? I was a chiropractor down the street.
I know.
I was like, I really just want to work together. I think we could really do some great things. And so fast forward a little bit, she sends me some of her toughest cases. And I realized she's testing me. She wants to see how good I am at doing what I'm doing. We just kind of saw that really by combining chiropractic and PT in a really purposeful way, we just started to grow and grow and grow. And now here we are, co-owners of a practice in South Lake that's thriving. And like she said, we're very passionate about we are changing the way the world treats their kids. And we do that by leading by example in our brick and mortar. So we have people come from all over the world to work specifically with us, but then we're only, 2 people, and we have a staff here that, can only do so much. So then our next passion is we want to educate and empower other clinicians and parents to, take control and be a part of the change that so badly needs to happen.
That's amazing. So let's dig into it. Parents who are listening right now who aren't even sure if their kids have a developmental delay or if they should be concerned about it, what are some things that you typically look for? What are some things that parents should be aware of when it comes to their kids, and if they need to have this intervention happen?
Yeah, sure. So first and foremost, we have a great free resource on our website, KinActive Kids, KinActiveKids.com, and it is a gross motor checklist. And that's going to go all the way from birth to 5 years old. So that's number one. Number two, you have to kind of look, we have these gross motor milestones that kiddos should hit, but it's like a sliding scale. One way or the other, at least by 1 to 2 months. So it may say rolling should occur at 6 months. It may say a child should be able to skip or ride a bike at 5 years old, but just know there's a lot of leeway when it comes to it, but to have a baseline, it's always good to know, because if you are lacking or, going behind by, 3, 4, 5 months, then that's kind of a red flag that something could be going on. So I think that's the biggest thing that we try to educate parents on is, yes, there's some resources out there. They're available for you. But again, moms kind of know. We all have that intuition. I know I did with my own daughter, where you're like, that doesn't seem right. So those are just like a guide to kind of help lead you in one direction or the other. And then just talking to your pediatrician. And then after that, if it's something that like takes rent in your head for more than a couple months, then I would say it's worth going to get extra education. It's not going to hurt anything getting a PT eval or discussing it with your pediatrician.
Yeah, I like that advice you have, though, that like if something takes rent in your head for more than a few months, because I know that when your kids are growing up, it is such a nerve-wracking time. And of course, you might be dealing also with lack of sleep on your part, and you don't know whether something is an issue or whether it's something that you're making bigger in your head. So for like instance, like my son didn't really talk more than like a word or two until he was a bit after 2 years. And I was worried about him, and my mother-in-law is like, no, like my son did this too, and everything turned out fine. And it was all good. But it was that sense of overwhelming something is wrong with my kid that I could not really get over. So what advice would you two have for parents who have this overwhelm when their kids are showing these developmental delays right after this?
Did you know that Americans take about 20,000 breaths a day and spend an average of 90% of their time indoors? And the indoor air quality that we breathe can be up to 100 times more polluted than outdoor air, according to the EPA. Indoor air pollutants can cause respiratory symptoms like sneezing, congestion, scratchy throat, and even more serious health problems like lung and heart disease. So what's the solution? Introducing Air Doctor, the air purifier that filters out 99.99% of dangerous contaminants so your lungs don't have to. This includes allergens, pollen, pet dander, dust mites, mold spores, and even bacteria and viruses. Air Doctor comes with a 30-day money-back guarantee, so if you don't love it, you just send it back for a refund minus the shipping. So head to airdoctorpro.com and use the promo code NGM, and you'll receive up to $300 off air purifiers. And exclusive to podcast customers, you will also receive a free 3-year warranty on any unit, which is an additional $84 value. Lock in the special offer by going to airdoctorpro.com and use promo code NGM. Green Chef and Every Plate is now owned by HelloFresh, and with a wider array of meal plans to choose from, there's something for everyone. I love switching between the brands, and now our listeners can enjoy all of the brands with us for a discount.
I love the holidays, Brie, but with how busy they are, I'm always looking for ways to make them a little more manageable. And HelloFresh does that. It saves you time from searching for recipes and all that grocery shopping. You just pick your meals, and then everything is delivered to your front door.
You can save valuable time during the busy holiday season with fewer trips to that way overcrowded grocery store, all thanks to the HelloFresh Market. Plus, if you're traveling for the holidays or you're just too busy to cook at home, you can cancel or skip a week. It is that easy.
Get 10 free meals at HelloFresh.com/free NGM. Applied across 7 boxes. New subscribers only. Varies by plan. That's 10 free HelloFresh meals just by going to HelloFresh.com/free NGM.
The holiday season is here, and Jenny Kane is our go-to destination. They have everything you need, from luxurious clothing and shoes to candles and home decor and so much more. Check out their iconic gift guide if you're looking to effortlessly check everyone off your list. For a limited time, our listeners get 15% off their first order. Go to jennykane.com and use the code GUILT15 to get 15% off. Now, Joanne and I have our favorite pieces. Hers is the crop cashmere cocoon cardigan in ivory, and I have to say it looks stunning on her, and she has said it is so cozy. Mine is the alpaca cocoon crew neck in their seasonal design, ivory with pinstripes. I love how I can wear it with leggings just to veg out at home, or pair it with some cute boots and jeans for an evening out. It's amazing. So gift yourself and your loved ones the best gift of all, Jenny Kane. Our listeners get 15% off your first order when you use the code GUILT15 at checkout. That's 15% off your first order at JENNIKAYNE.com. Promo code GUILT15. Let getting dressed be one less thing to worry about. So we were talking about how parents can feel overwhelmed with their kid when they have a concern that there's like a disability or a delay going on. And I also wanted to ask on that because I feel like that is something that is both very prevalent and not as prevalent because of COVID. I feel like a lot of parents that had a COVID baby, and Matt, I think you got me because, like, what did you say? You had a 5-month-old in 2020. Yeah. So when it's your first kid and you had your kid during that lockdown time frame, you may not have that community that other people have. How do you figure out, like Joanne was saying, am I making this too big in my brain because I don't have that community to compare my child to? Or maybe I do have just like one or two other kids that I know, and I'm like worried that my kids should be doing so much more. My sister's kid was doing this by that. My mom is concerned that her best friend's granddaughter can do X, Y, Z. Like, how do you help parents with that? Like, where do they go?
Yeah, there's a lot to digest with that question. And I think there's multiple levels to it. So I'll kind of start us off, and Emily, anything you want to chime in, go right ahead. But I think one thing to just touch on, like the gross motor checklist, I think is very important, right? Well, all we can do, especially in this comparison society with social media and things, is empower ourselves with education, right? So the gross motor checklist, like she was saying, I mean, there's a million of them out there. We like ours pretty good. We're a little biased, but everything that's on there, it's not, like she was saying, this huge red flag. You're just looking for, it gives you a guideline to, this is about when they should be doing these things. They should be trying to do these things at this certain time. Clinicians use it as a tool to look at the neurology of how the child is developing. That's why they are everywhere. But a lot of times you'll have grandma down the street that's like, why isn't your kid walking yet? And you're like, Grandma, they're 6 months. They shouldn't be walking. Mm-hmm. But if you don't have that information, in your back pocket, then you're like, oh crap, maybe they are behind. But if you are empowered, you can go, well, Grandma, it's actually not until 12 months that we're looking for that. 16 months is actually still typical. But another thing that you touched on is COVID. And I think COVID was very tough for a lot of families, and they got put into these containers. Containers are like things, because we're all trying to survive, right? I know my wife was on Zoom calls at home, or my 6-month-old at the time was in many of her work calls, because you're just trying to survive. You're trying to do all these things. But what it taught us is lack of mobility over a prolonged period of time can cause some of these delays. So containers aren't bad, but if they're getting stuck in one position for a long period of time, then you may see some delays, because your kid is supposed to interact with the world. They're supposed to move and groove and do all these things and figure out how their body works.
Yeah. My sister is a pediatric physical therapist, and she got so mad when my mother-in-law bought us a little, oh my God, like a little walker. Yeah, like a jumper walker for him to be in. And I'm like, I swear to God, my background's in EI, early intervention. I know not to have him in there all the time. But wouldn't you know that my ex-husband had to babysit him one day, and he spent like all of his waking hours in the walker. I think I lost my
Yeah, my daughter had a jumper that was my husband's favorite way to watch her. He would play video games and she would be jumping, and she'd be so tired in the jumper, she'd be crying afterwards. She has knee problems now. Now I'm like, wait. I don't know. I'm going to leave that. I'm going to put that over here.
Does she have hip issues too?
I don't know. I'm just going to put that over here for another time.
She can do great splits though. She's a dancer. She can do phenomenal splits now.
Love that.
Yeah. Anyways, so there's a lot of guilt and shame around these developmental delays. I know that personally in my own life. My niece was born with a cleft palate. And I've seen my sister go through the guilt right now, because she's like, oh my gosh, I was reading all the information, and it's around 5 to 6 weeks of gestational age. Like, what was I doing during these 5 to 6 gestational weeks of age? So moms tend to tie themselves to their kids' developmental delays as something that they did.
Well, yeah, we grew them. It's our fault.
Yeah.
I'm joking.
Yeah.
How do you recommend that moms deal with this guilt and shame around developmental delays?
Yeah. I mean, like I said, I have 2 little girls, a 7-year-old and a 9-year-old. And I think right when I became a mom, first of all, I have this picture of myself that my husband thinks is hilarious. And I'm holding my oldest, and they just put her in my arms. And I had this look on my face like, oh my God, like, is this happening? Like, you're going to give me my own child and I have to take them home by myself. So with all that being said, I think no matter if no one else in the world was telling us that we're, doing a bad job or something like that, inherently, I know as parents, you just always have that guilt. Like, I could be doing more. I could be doing this. But I think you have to understand that, however things kind of are made in our body, just the way the good Lord made them, they're going to be all unique and beautiful. And we just have to be that external force to help guide them through it. So we can't be in control. You just kind of have to give up control at some point, knowing that you can't be there and do everything. I remember even when Heidi wouldn't sleep, and I'd be like, okay, if I put her down right at 10 o'clock, then she should nap until 12 o'clock. And then she'll wake up. And then, I just went in my mind going over and over again. And when I never could get it right. And then she never did nap. So I was like, she's broken. She is just broken.
I think we all feel that.
I'm just going to say,
yes,
Emily, we can relate to you.
Yes.
Like, first kid didn't sleep till he was freaking 3.
Yeah. Yeah. And you're like, what am I doing wrong? Mm-hmm. What am I doing wrong? Is there something? And it's
was like, mine was the same. I was like, oh, he's broke. It's fine.
Can I give him back? No, I have to keep him. No.
Now the kid can sleep through a freight train, but still.
I love that. Well, see,
non-sleep.
And so you just have to really give up and surrender and be like, all right, today, whatever's going to happen is going to happen. And what I can do as a parent is lead them in the best way and give them the best opportunities to be the most healthy and successful. I mean, and it may not work. Usually about 100 times during the day, it's not going to work. I also think surrounding yourself, I know for me, this was a big thing, was surrounding myself with other women, having a community, and to where basically I could just talk about how my kid didn't sleep and be like, this sucks. And they'd be like, it does suck. I'm like, cool. And it made me feel better that I wasn't alone on this island of being a new parent. And I think lastly, I know maybe for some of the parents that have older kiddos and now me having a third grader and a second grader, I thought that once all these milestones were done around 18 months to 2 years and they start walking and everything, I'm like, I'm going to feel so much better. No, you kind of are constantly in this state of feeling like guilty or you can do more. But I think the same thing runs true as it did in those first 2 years of life, is having a community that is on your side, surrendering control and trying your best just to give them the best opportunities to be healthy and happy.
So Matt, I'm really interested because we as women, we tend to have all of this guilt and shame around us, where it's baked into our culture. It's baked into almost how we're supposed to function in society, that we are the caregivers, no matter what we
are the
do,
default by default.
Yeah, we feel all this. So I want to know, from a dad's perspective, when you see your child have a developmental delay, what are some thoughts that go through your head? Do you experience guilt and shame the same way?
Yeah, I would say I compared a lot from one kid to the next. So they weren't delayed in the textbook sense, but I was kind of judging how they were doing based off of how the previous ones were. So when the second one was a little bit later, I was like, well, and I think a little bit too, being a clinician and specializing in this, I'm like, well, they should be doing all these things. I should be looking for it. So if I try and put that kind of hat aside, I think, and I can't speak for all dads, but I do think a lot of dads that are really invested in their kids and their family, they will feel a little bit of shame. I think one thing to remember is there was actually a study that came out that said, of a child with delays, 70% of parents feel like that's a direct reflection on their parenting ability. So it's not anything that the child did. They're putting all of that on them. And that wasn't moms or dads. That was just in general of you feel this shame of well, I'm doing something wrong and I want my kid to do the best. Now, as a guy, I'll probably lean more towards want my kids to do really good at sports. And if one of them doesn't want to do sports, that's okay. I have to be okay with that. They may not be the track athlete, or I'm going to really try and make them golfers. But I have two girls and I have one boy. We want girl, boy. So I'm going to put golf clubs in their hands. But yeah, I think if they don't.
I love how you've already got it planned out.
Yeah.
It's happening.
Yeah. And that just goes to show none of them are going to do golf, but
No, yeah, it never
Pretty
goes the way you
much.
want it to.
Yeah.
Always how it happens. Well, I want to get your guys' specific advice on if a parent is seeing that their child is behind on a specific gross motor skill, like what you recommend them doing. And we're going to tackle that right after this.
There's a lot happening these days. It can feel especially stressful or hopeless when things are totally outside your control. And if you're anything like me, you're also having trouble focusing with things like parenting issues, work challenges, perimenopause. It can totally wreak havoc on your ability to stay focused and be productive. This sounds like you. I know something that can make a real difference. Calm.
Calm is the #1 app for sleep and meditation, giving you the power to calm your mind and change your life. Calm offers a wide range of content and programs to help you navigate life's ups and downs, including meditations to help you work through anxiety and stress, boost your focus, build healthier habits, and even take better care of your physical well-being.
Stress less, sleep more, and live better with Calm. For listeners of our podcast show, Calm is offering an exclusive offer of 40% off Calm premium subscription at calm.com/NGM. Go to calm.com/NGM for 40% off unlimited access to Calm's entire library. That's calm.com/NGM.
The sounds of the season can often sound like this.
So, when are we getting some grandkids?
But with Hilton's Season to Stay sale, they could sound a bit more like this. Or this. Stay and save up to 20% off when you book before January 5th at Hilton.com. Hilton, for the stay. Minimum 2-night stay required. Excludes luxury and all-inclusive properties. Terms and conditions apply.
I've got a lot of grandbabies, like a lot. And when it comes to finding a gift for each of them, it could add up. But this year, while I was making my way through Walmart, I realized I don't have to spend a lot to get the gifts they'll love.
An OPI mini mani set. I'm going to do so much nail art. Oh, yeah! A Lego set. My own Walla water bottle.
Ooh, and that's just half of them.
Shop great gifts they're sure to love for $25 and under at Walmart.
So we want to know what to do in a specific scenario. So say a parent listening right now, they feel like their kid should be walking and they're not. They're not hitting that gross motor milestone. What do you recommend they do?
Yeah, so the cool thing about walking is there is a wide range of when a child can achieve that. And it could happen as early as 10 months, and it could happen as late as 16, 17 months. I would say in the specific case of walking, if a child isn't walking independently, meaning they're able to stand up on their own and take 5 to 6 steps by 18 months, then that's when you need to be concerned. So that's a hard and fast rule. And that's when most pediatricians will be like, okay, we need to refer out and see if something is going on. With that being said, if your child is pulling up to stand and they're cruising around and you just can't get them to take those independent steps, that's where a lot of parents start to get concerned. But here's a couple little hard and fast rules for you that I've kind of put into my practice and or on Instagram to kind of educate parents to not freak out and what we can do to kind of help them over that hump. So one thing would be is if your child starts pulling to stand, let's say 9, 10 months, and you're at 15 months, and they're still not trying to take independent steps. So they've been, cruising around furniture for over 5 months. That would be a red flag when I say red flag, that's just like alert, to talk to your pediatrician and be like, something could be going on. Okay. If they start pulling to stand and, it's less than 3 months, just give them time to acclimate to being upright and vertical. I would say there's a beautiful grace period that from let's say 15 months to 24 months, that there are no real gross motor skills that happen. None. It's a catch-up time. So don't freak out if your child is on the latter end, which my Heidi didn't start walking until like 15 months. Hannah was walking at 11 months. And look at it this way. They have additional time to crawl. So they're going to have like the best fine motor skills of all the kids in elementary school. But
I was going to say, in terms of that, like that, what you're talking about, how there's a lot going on and there's that catch up period. I feel like I read somewhere that if they're having a language explosion, that can cause, okay, yeah, you're nodding your head. Yes. So that it can cause them to have a delay in the gross motor because it takes so much concentration and focus.
Yeah. And I mean, you're going to see that when you have jumps in one skill, you may have a pullback of others. And if you have, say you have some big jumps, gross motor, you're going to have some, I'm going to say cognitive drawbacks. And that may be even like their brain can't calm down enough. And you see that come a lot of times in sleep. They won't be sleeping for several weeks. It's very disruptive patterns. And so a lot is going on in their little brain when that's happening. I think the last thing when it comes to walking is there are things that you can implement that may be exactly what you need to get them independent and taking steps. I talk a lot about shoes on my Instagram and in different, news magazines that I've been in, because I think shoes, it's always very controversial. But barefoot is best. Yes, totally get that. But if your kid has, again, we're getting to that latter end of not walking and they're at 16 to 18 months. The greatest predictor of a child walking is if they have stability in their ankle. So let's put on a shoe. And I like to get a little bit more of a sturdy shoe. I like a lot of the Stride Rights, or Walmart has some great ones. They're Wonder Nation. Give them a little bit of a sole, Velcro closure, some traction on there. And I promise you, if that 99% of the time, if the kid's not walking and they're neurotypical, it's because something's going on at their ankle. So put a shoe on them. Yeah. And that's not going to change their development of their feet. Their feet are cartilage until about 3. So really putting them in a shoe is not going to affect anything going on. It's just going to help those little ankles be more stable. So you have a couple little things that you can work with when it comes to walking and not freaking out and having some steps to take.
That's so interesting about shoes, because we didn't buy shoes for either of our kids. Now my kids are 15 years old and 11 years old, but I was doing that more of their feet are growing so fast. I can't even
can't keep up.
Matt's been there.
But I've never heard that before about the ankles. So that's a mic drop moment there, Emily, for everyone whose kids are having trouble walking. It is the shoes. Is there any sort of other purposeful play that you could do for a kid who's having trouble walking?
Oh yeah. Okay. This is my wheelhouse. I love this kind of thing. So there's so many things. So say your kiddo, I get this by parents saying this all the time. They will only walk while holding my hand. They just won't let go. So instead of letting them hold your hand, grab a toy, grab a snack cup, grab a little towel, grab a balloon, whatever, and let them hold on to that instead of holding onto your hand. What that's going to do, it's going to take some of the dependence away from the kiddo on the parent and give them more confidence to walk independently. And that could be just really something, even like a hanger or a broomstick, but just take yourself out of the situation. Another thing I like to do is set up the environment to kind of promote independence and steps. So instead of all your furniture being so far apart, maybe for a week or two, get that coffee table, maybe only 2 feet from the couch, put a kitchen chair at the end of the couch to where we're just getting movement and rotation and twisting. And again, they're exploring. And that exploration that they do on their own is really ultimately going to build independence. And then lastly, just focusing on getting them out in the middle of the floor. So I'll have them stand over my legs and have them maybe holding onto a mirror, maybe back up, and just give them a chance to be away from furniture, holding onto an object with both hands. That's the big one, because when their mind is monopolized with objects, they're going to forget about how scared they are. So objects in their hands, switching out your hand, and then setting up the environment for success.
That's awesome. I remember you mentioned that one tip about like having kids like turn and rotate and go to table to like couch. I remember the exact moment my daughter started walking, and it was one of those movements. It was like she was on the couch and then she just turned and walked to the table right there. And I'm like, oh my gosh.
I know. You're like,
That's what Emily is so good at doing that. I mean, that's why I reached out to her however long ago. She's always been so like creative with thinking outside the box, and like the stuff that she has on her Instagram, it's like a diaper box. Like you don't have to go and buy all of these fancy things. You have all these things at your house. It's just using them in a creative way. And now knowing more about it, like purposeful play, we're not forcing anything. You're just setting an environment for success. And then you're letting your child do what they're supposed to do.
yeah.
Absolutely. Well, I've learned so much about gross motor skills during this interview, as well as how to help kids along. What is something that you're all looking forward to that's coming up for you?
We have a big year coming up next year. We're kind of redefining some of our educational platforms. So our KinActive University, we're kind of going through a transitional change, and that'll be coming out real soon. That's our online education for chiropractors, PTs, OTs, to just do things that we do. We gain a really good understanding of the typical development so that we can see signs of when things are atypical. And then we dive further into that of when they are atypical, what can you do about it? So that's for the clinicians. For parents, if you're listening at home, we have our master classes in our KinActive community. So that's all the purposeful play tips, from everything from rolling to walking and crawling and all the fun stuff. And then obviously our clinic is down in South Lake, Texas. You want to come see us, come on down. Our mission is, like I said, change the way the world treats their kids. And we do that through, leading by example, and then also empowering moms out there. So all this at our website, KinActiveKids.com. And then you can go to our socials.
KinActive_kids.
Thank you guys so much for joining us, and we will talk to you soon.
Thank you.
Well, talking with Emily and Matt, I'm a little bit happy that developmental stage has passed, because I remember how stressful it was just worrying about your kids, every little thing they did when they were little, especially because they couldn't communicate with you on what was actually going on.
Yeah.
So that brought back some memories there for me. What about you?
Well, okay, like it brought back my first life of early intervention, but I mean it's you're not kidding. It is hard. 90% of your child's brain develops by age 5. Think about it. Your baby goes from, like Emily talked about, the moment that they placed her firstborn in her arms and she's like, "Oh my God, I'm actually supposed to go home with this thing. Like you're trusting me with this." And I think it's a good point. That baby, firstborn, can't keep its eyes open, can't focus, doesn't know how to control any body movements. Sounds are still learning how to make vocal sounds. Within 5 years, they are reciting stories. They are walking, running, skipping, jumping, all of these things. So if you think about how much they learn, it is a lot to keep up on. You are right. It's a lot of stress of did they meet this checklist? Did they meet that checklist? And like she said, in order to make it as simple as possible, checklists have basic timelines on when things happen.
Yeah.
Like she said, your kid could be starting to walk at 16 months and they're on the late end of age appropriate.
Yeah. Or they're still age appropriate. Like the whole grandma story. I was like, cool it, grandma. Cool your jets.
You were ready to fight grandma on that story. It was so funny.
I was ready to fight grandma. I was ready to step in and be like, listen.
So yeah, definitely check them out.
Yeah, check them out. And thank you guys for listening to the No Guilt Mom podcast. If we can ask you for a favor, can you share this episode with a friend? Maybe a friend who has a little one who is stressing out right now about every little thing, just to give them a little comfort and a little knowing that they are not alone. Share this episode. And remember, the best mom is a happy mom. Take care of you, and we'll talk to you later.
Thanks for stopping by.
When it comes to raising kids, there's so much to consider. Things like, what do we feed them? When do we feed them? How do they sleep? What does it look like to raise kind kids? How does their nervous system work? How do I keep myself calm? What are my triggers? There's so much that comes into play, and we are distilling all of that information for you at Voices of Your Village podcast, where we bring experts in the field of early childhood and education and psychology and across the board so that you don't have to comb the internet for information. You get to show up and hang out and have shame-free, judgment-free conversations and insights into what it looks like to raise kind, empathetic, emotionally intelligent humans. I'm Alyssa Blask Campbell. I have a master's degree in early childhood education. I'm a mom of 2, and I am walking this journey right alongside you doing this work. Come hang out with me at Voices of Your Village, and we can dive into real conversations with actionable tips.